Greetings, fellow humans, and welcome to the book wormhole. So obviously I use this channel as an outlet to talk about what I'm reading, but I've also used it to kind of observe what sort of books I am reading and how I feel about them. And then taking note of those two things, it kind of helps me see what I am lacking in my reading and decide what I might want to read a little bit more of. So one of the challenges I have for myself, and I figured I might as well make a video about it in case other people want to also join in, because I think it's a good idea and pretty much anyone reading any sort of genre can participate in this challenge. And also, I haven't seen anyone come up with this challenge yet. And so I've decided to call this the Decades Challenge. I want to use this as an excuse for myself and for anyone else who wants to participate in it to challenge themselves to read books from different decades. I noticed in doing my wrap-up this past year, I read from a lot of different decades. I think the earliest was 1890, but I also read a lot from the 60s and 70s and 80s, and even the 1910s. And so I want to keep doing that this year as well. If you're someone who usually just reads modern books, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you might be wondering why read older books. I think older books get a bad rep of being boring or even, really backwards. But the more I read older books, the more I realize that's not the case. Most of the time when I read a book I don't like, it's actually a new book. So one of the benefits of reading older books is usually the books that remain relevant decades later remain popular because they are good books. And so it kind of weeds out the bad books. Those aren't the ones that are still being talked about now. So you have that little bit of quality control you don't otherwise get with modern books. And as far as the writing being backwards, I find myself so impressed by how forward-thinking a lot of older books are that I read. A lot of older books are tackling a lot of the same issues that we still deal with today and have really progressive thoughts about it. I think reading older books kind of gives me the opportunity to find those hidden treasures back in history. And it also can help me contextualize history better by understanding, this book came out in this year when, these historical events were happening, and maybe that's why that era of books dealt with a certain group of issues that were more present in that time than now. And weirdly enough, I find that my least favorite decade of books is definitely the 2000s. For some reason, whenever I read a book from the 2000s, it's wildly homophobic and misogynistic for no reason at all. Books from that decade just aged like milk, and it's only been 20 years. So my goal for this isn't only just getting people to pay attention to what year that their books come out, but also to encourage people to try a book from a different era that maybe you wouldn't necessarily have originally. So the goal for this challenge is to read at least one book from every decade, and I am going to count 2020 and 2010, and my least favorite, the 2000s as well. But I do really encourage people to go back as far as they can. And while I'm not really going to be using a point system for myself, if that is something that appeals to people, is, kind of given more incentive to completing this challenge, I'd say you get a point for every decade you read. But in going back in time, the points add up. So if you read from 2020, that's 1 point. But if you read from 2010, that's going to be 2 points. And then 2000s is 3 points. So on and so forth. So the further back you go, the more points you're going to get. And the points are redeemable for no discernible prize, but just so you can be proud of yourself. So anyway, that's my idea. It's something I'm going to be doing this year with my reading, and then I'll probably have a video at the end of the year to talk about how the challenge went for me. I honestly would love to see other people participate in this too, because I think it's a really fun idea. But also, let me know what your favorite older book is so I can add it to my TBR. Okay, that's it for this one. Remember to support your local library and shop independent when you can, and until next time, please stay tuned.